In the year 2307, humanity had ventured far beyond the cradle of its birth. Terra, once the vibrant heart of the human race, had become a distant memory, a relic of a bygone age. Colonies dotted the vast emptiness of space, connected by trade routes and a tenuous alliance known as the Union of Free Worlds. It was a time of exploration, of discovery, but also of unspoken tension. Humanity had learned that it was not alone. For decades, they had been encountering remnants of other civilizations, empires long extinguished, their ruins drifting aimlessly through the void. It was clear that something had wiped these once mighty races from existence. Stories of an ancient force, a cosmic harbinger known as the Abyss, had spread through the colonies. Many dismissed it as myth, the fevered imagination of explorers who had ventured too far into the darkness. But others believed. Captain Elias L. Morgan was not one to believe in myths. He was a man of science and reason, molded by years of hardship. The commander of the exploration ship Ardent Dawn, he had witnessed both the beauty and horrors of the galaxy firsthand. Yet, as he stood on the bridge of his ship, gazing out at the abyssal expanse before him, he could not deny the unease that crept into his heart. "All systems are nominal, Captain," reported Nyla Rook, his chief engineer, her voice steady despite the palpable tension. "We're ready for the jump." Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the star chart displayed before him. They were on a mission to chart the outer rim of the galaxy, an area known for its treacherous anomalies and abandoned worlds. The Union had ordered this expedition, hoping to find new resources or allies amidst the void. Yet there was an unspoken fear that they might find something else. "Initiate the jump," Elias commanded, his voice a mix of determination and apprehension. The ship's engines roared to life, and the stars around them twisted and blurred as they hurtled into the warp. Time stretched and warped, and for a moment, Elias felt as though they were piercing through the very fabric of reality itself. Then, with a jarring lurch, they emerged on the other side. "Jump complete," Nyla reported, her hands dancing over the controls. "We're in the target system." Silence fell over the bridge as the crew beheld the view before them. A massive, desolate world hung in the void, its surface scarred and pocked with ancient craters. The sensors buzzed with activity, detecting faint energy signatures emanating from the planet's surface. "Is that a signal?" Elias asked, leaning forward, his eyes narrowing at the readout. "Affirmative, Captain," said Malik, the ship's communications officer. "It's weak, but it's there. Could be an automated distress beacon." Elias felt a surge of both excitement and dread. "Prepare a landing party," he ordered. "We need to investigate." The descent onto the planet was rough. The Ardent Dawn shuttle bucked and shuddered as it pierced through the dense atmosphere, its hull groaning against the pressure. Elias gripped his seat, his eyes fixed on the ground below. As they broke through the cloud cover, a sprawling complex came into view, an ancient installation of alien design, its surface marred by the passage of time. The shuttle touched down with a heavy thud, and Elias and his team disembarked, their weapons at the ready. The air was thick and heavy, tainted with the scent of decay and rust. The complex loomed before them, its darkened halls beckoning them forward. "Stay sharp," Elias warned, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." As they ventured deeper into the complex, they encountered signs of a once thriving civilization. Holographic displays flickered with cryptic symbols, and machinery lay in various states of decay. Yet, amidst the ruins, they found something unexpected: a chamber filled with stasis pods, each one containing a figure suspended in a state of cryogenic sleep. "Captain, you need to see this," Nyla called out, her voice strained with a mix of awe and concern. Elias approached, his eyes widening as he saw the beings encased in the pods. They were humanoid, but their features were elongated, their skin a pale blue. Clearly not human, but not entirely alien either. "What are they?" Malik whispered, his eyes scanning the faces behind the glass. "Survivors," Elias replied, his mind racing. "But of what?" A sudden noise reverberated through the chamber, and the team spun around, weapons raised. The shadows at the far end of the room shifted, and from the darkness emerged a figure, a human, ragged and gaunt, his eyes burning with a wild intensity. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, keeping his weapon trained on the man. The stranger laughed, a sound filled with bitterness and despair. You should not have come here," he rasped, his voice cracking from disuse. "This place is a tomb, a warning." Elias lowered his weapon slightly, his eyes narrowing. "What happened here?" he asked, his voice firm. The man staggered forward, his gaze darting between the stasis pods. "They came," he muttered. "The abyss. It consumes all. This was their last stand, a desperate attempt to escape its reach. But they failed." A chill ran down Elias's spine as the man's words sunk in. The abyss. It was not just a myth. It was real, and it was coming. "Captain," Nyla's voice cut through the tension. "The signal is changing. It's transmitting coordinates. And not just to us, it's broadcasting to the entire sector." Elias's heart pounded. "We need to leave. Now." Back on the Ardent Dawn, chaos reigned. The signal from the planet had triggered a response across the sector, drawing the attention of Union and independent ships alike. Reports flooded in of strange phenomena, ships disappearing, stars dimming. The abyss was awakening. Elias gathered his senior officers in the war room, the atmosphere heavy with the weight of what they had discovered. "This is more than we bargained for," he began, his voice grim. "The abyss is not just some force of nature, it's hunting us." "Then we need to warn the Union," Malik insisted. "We need to form a coalition, gather our strength to fight back." Elias shook his head. "And what if it's already too late? What if the abyss cannot be fought? Do we risk everything in a war we might not be able to win?" The room fell silent as the moral dilemma settled over them. Nyla spoke up, her eyes fierce. "If we run, if we hide, then we're already defeated. We need to understand it, to find its weaknesses. There has to be a way." Elias looked at her, seeing the resolve in her gaze. She was right. They could not simply run. They had to face the darkness, to push back against the void that threatened to consume all life. "Then we gather allies," Elias declared, his voice gaining strength. "We rally the Union, the independents, anyone willing to stand against the abyss. But more than that, we need to find out what it is. We need to understand its nature if we're to have any chance of stopping it." Thus began the Ardent Dawn's mission, a quest to unite humanity and its allies against a force beyond comprehension. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, filled with moral complexities as they navigated the politics and mistrust among the different factions. Elias and his crew would face challenges that would test their resolve, force them to confront their fears, and question their own humanity. As they set a course for the nearest Union outpost, Elias stared out at the stars, a sense of determination settling over him. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the future of all life. The void might be vast, its darkness unfathomable, but humanity was not without hope. As long as they held on to that, they could defy even the abyss itself. The Ardent Dawn soared through the cold vacuum of space, a solitary beacon against the endless dark. Within its metallic walls, the crew wrestled with the weight of their mission. Captain Elias L. Morgan stood on the bridge, gazing at the looming silhouette of the space station ahead. Known as the Conclave, it was one of the few places where representatives from various factions within the Union of Free Worlds gathered. Here, diplomacy was as crucial as firepower, a place where alliances were forged and shattered with a single word. "Docking complete, Captain," Nyla Rook reported, her tone neutral. Despite the mask of calm, Elias knew his chief engineer well enough to sense the tension underlying her words. They were heading into a political minefield, and everyone aboard felt the gravity of it. "Thank you, Nyla," Elias replied. "Malik, you're with me. The rest of you, stay on alert. This might be a diplomatic mission, but let's not forget who we're dealing with." Malik, the ship's communications officer, adjusted his uniform and nodded. Understood, Captain. Let's hope we can convince them that the Abyss is a threat to us all. As they disembarked from the ship and entered the dimly lit corridors of the Conclave, they were greeted by a stark reminder of the fractured state of the Union. Banners from various factions lined the walls, each displaying unique insignias and mottos that spoke to their diverse beliefs and ideologies. The central hall of the Conclave was already abuzz with representatives. To Elias's left stood the delegates from the militaristic coalition of Aegis, clad in dark, imposing armor, their eyes cold and calculating. Opposite them were the technocrats of the Virex Syndicate, known for their pursuit of knowledge at any cost. There were also representatives from smaller factions, the Xanthi Collective, traders and explorers who valued freedom above all else, and the Terra Reclamation League, whose sole mission was to recover lost human heritage from the ruins of Terra. Elias felt the weight of their gazes as he entered, a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and outright hostility. A few nodded in recognition. Others turned away, whispering to their aides. "Captain Morgan," called a voice smooth and commanding. Elias turned to see High Commander Captain Valen of the Coalition of Aegis approaching. Her eyes were sharp, her expression one of controlled power. "I trust you've come with information, not empty promises?" Elias met her gaze evenly. "Information and a request," he replied. "We need to form a united front against the Abyss. Alone, none of us stand a chance. Together, we might have a fighting shot." A murmur spread through the hall. The representative from the Virex Syndicate, a man with silver implants running down his temples, stepped forward. "You speak of an alliance as though it's that simple, Captain," he sneered. "But some of us have more to lose than others. What exactly are you proposing? That we place our trust in the Union and follow your lead into the darkness?" Elias clenched his jaw, already feeling the familiar frustration of trying to herd these political cats. "I'm proposing that we pool our resources," he said, keeping his voice level. "Technology, information, military might, whatever it takes to stop the Abyss from consuming us all." "Why should we trust you?" snapped Mira Dath, a representative of the Terra Reclamation League. "We've spent decades recovering fragments of our past, preserving what little remains of Terra's legacy. Now you want us to risk it all on some crusade?" Elias turned to her, feeling the moral dilemma take shape. "This isn't just about survival. It's about preserving everything we've built. If the Abyss consumes this sector, your relics, your history, it will be lost forever." Mira's eyes flickered, doubt and anger warring within her. "And what if you're wrong? What if the Abyss is not what you claim it to be? You're asking us to sacrifice everything on a gamble." "Then what would you propose?" barked High Commander Valen, her patience clearly fraying. "That we sit and do nothing? Wait until it reaches our doorsteps? We need to act." The room erupted into arguments. The Xanthi Collective argued for caution, wary of centralized control that could threaten their independence. The Virex Syndicate pushed for leveraging the most advanced technologies, even those considered dangerous. The Coalition of Aegis demanded full military mobilization, while the Terra Reclamation League refused to commit without guarantees of preserving their work. Elias stood there, his eyes scanning the room. This was his worst fear realized, a fractured union, unable to agree even when faced with existential annihilation. "Enough!" he roared, his voice cutting through the cacophony. The hall fell silent, all eyes turning to him. "This bickering will get us nowhere. The Abyss doesn't care about our politics or our borders. It will consume us all if we don't stand together." He took a deep breath, knowing the next words would define their course. "I'm not asking for blind allegiance, I'm asking for cooperation. We don't need to abandon our differences, but we must set them aside to face this threat." Silence hung in the air for a long moment before the silver-eyed representative of the Virex Syndicate spoke. "Very well," he said, his voice measured. "We will contribute our research and technological assets, but I have one condition: full access to whatever knowledge we gain from this endeavor." "Agreed," Elias replied, though he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He knew the Virex's thirst for knowledge had led them into morally gray areas before. This partnership could lead to unintended consequences, but without their advanced technology, the Alliance would be at a severe disadvantage. High Commander Valen stepped forward. The Coalition will lend its military forces to this alliance, provided that I maintain direct command over our fleet. We fight as equals, not under a single banner. Elias nodded. Accepted. Miradath was the last to speak, her eyes hard. The Terra Reclamation League will assist, but if we find any relics of human origin during this campaign, they belong to us. No exceptions. Elias hesitated, realizing that this could create conflict down the line. However, he saw no other choice. Agreed, for now, he conceded. But remember, if our survival depends on those relics, we might have to revisit this. She gave a curt nod, her face unreadable. With the tentative agreements in place, Elias felt the atmosphere shift. It wasn't harmony, nor was it a full alliance, but it was a start. The factions had come together out of necessity, not trust or goodwill. It was fragile, likely to fracture at the first sign of strain, but it was a glimmer of hope. Back on the Ardent Dawn, Nyla approached Elias as he returned to the bridge. "So, how did it go?" she asked, her eyes scanning his face for a hint of success. Elias sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "We've got their cooperation, but it's conditional, fragile. I don't know how long it will hold once we're out there facing the abyss." Nyla nodded, understanding the unspoken complexity of their situation. Conditional or not, it's something. We'll make it work. As the Ardent Dawn set course for their first joint operation with the newly formed alliance, Elias stared out into the vastness of space. They had taken the first step in a journey that would test not only their strength but their convictions. He knew the road ahead would be treacherous. Loyalties would be tested, sacrifices demanded, and alliances strained. But it was a start, and sometimes a start was all you needed to change the course of history.